Welcome to the presentation of a lecture from Gnostic Radio, a free public service from the Gnostic tradition of Samael Aun Weor. Gnosis is the root wisdom of all the world's great religions. Gnosis is a universal teaching of practical science, whose goal is absolute liberation from suffering and the complete development of the human being. This lecture is one of hundreds available as free downloads, podcasts, or transcriptions. Our lectures range in topic and complexity in order to address the many needs of humanity. We invite you to browse our library of lectures to find teachings that suit you. Each Saturday, Gnostic Radio broadcasts live and includes a free online classroom, allowing listeners to see images, read related scriptures, and ask questions of the speaker. To learn how to participate, visit gnosticradio.org. Gnostic Radio is a service of Glorian Publishing, a non-profit organization. The lectures and radio broadcast have been made possible by the financial support of listeners like you. Most spiritual schools recommend a donation of $10 to $20 per lecture. To make a donation, visit gnosticradio.org. Now, with heartfelt wishes for the end of suffering for all creatures, we begin the lecture. May all beings be happy.
Hello and welcome to our 6th lecture in our Healthy Spirituality series. Today is going to be a really important lecture because we're not only going to talk about, we've been talking so much about what we've eaten, what should we eat, what should we put into our bodies, that today we're really going to start talking about what liquid we should put into our bodies, because we are made up mostly of water. And so we're going to talk about a very important resource and how to choose the best water for our bodies. So if we look, lectures 1 through 4 spoke really about what we eat, the best foods we possibly can eat, and why we eat. And that was to feed our temples and prepare it for spiritual work. Lecture 5 spoke about how much should we eat with portions, mindfulness, and prayer. And today we're going to talk about what else are we really made up of, and that's water. And researching this topic has been quite extensive for me because this is, as you start studying water and really getting into water, you realize how huge of a topic and how many things are happening to our water. And today my goal for this lecture is to tell you about how important water is for our body and what can we do to get the best water to put into our body. So by the end of the lecture, I'm hoping you'll have those resources so that you can continue doing the work. So if we look at slide 3, you'll see we showed this at one of our previous lectures, and it really shows all the components we need to lead a balanced life. And so if you look in the middle, we have all the grains, the vegetables, the fruits, oils, proteins, the foods. We spoke about all those components. And by now, I hope you know what choices are the best choices for you. Now, if you're putting that into practice is another story, but I hope, the first step is knowing, the second step is doing and experimenting. So by now, I hope you understand that triangle portion of this pyramid. Then, underneath there, as you see, the huge portion is water, okay? Because water is such an important element to a balanced body. And around that, you can see spirituality, relationships, career, and physical activity. We need to be balanced in all these areas in order to be able to live a truly fulfilled life, a balanced life, a life that can help us to do what we are meant to do on this earth. So if you look at this, I really love this graphic because it shows you how to take care of yourself optimally, all the areas that you really need to look at to do that. Okay. So the first thing, what is water? We take it for granted a lot, right? We all know H2O equals water. A single drop of water actually contains billions of water molecules. We know that everything is made up of atoms, and an atom is the smallest particle of an element, like oxygen or hydrogen. And atoms join together to form molecules. Okay? So then that's what water is. What's interesting is scientists know that it's, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, and yet they can't recreate water. Right? Knowing this, it doesn't give us the capacity to create it. So really, the water that we have on Earth is the water that we've had on Earth for, billions of years. So, but this is the really simple version of what is water. So if we take a look at our world, we can see that about 70 to 75% of the Earth's surface is covered in water. And 97% of the water on Earth is salt water. Okay? Salt water is filled with salt and other minerals, and we humans cannot drink this water. Right? Although the salt can be removed, it's a difficult process and a very expensive process. There are actually desalination machines that can do this, but probably at our level, it would be very expensive to get. So 2% of the water on the Earth is glacier ice at the North and South Poles, and this ice is fresh water, and it actually could be used, but it's too far away, and honestly, who lives on the North and South Pole? So it would be too difficult to get to. So that leaves us with how much of all of that Earth's water is actually usable for us. And when we look at it, it's actually a very astonishing amount, because if we look at it, it's such a small, it's less than 1% of all the water on the Earth that is suitable for us to use. So we can only use about 0.3%, 0.3% of the water on Earth. And that water comes from groundwater, aquifers, rivers, and freshwater lakes. And we use that for drinking, for transportation, heating, cooling, industry, and many other purposes. So when you look at it that way, you could imagine how precious water is on Earth, because there's just such a small amount that actually we can use, and there's so many of us on this Earth. So a couple of interesting things I want to talk about water is, there's 6 billion people on Earth. 6 billion, and it's growing. The numbers are staggeringly, growing quicker and quicker. And 1.1 billion people do not have access to safe, clean drinking water. That's a huge number of people, 1.1 billion people. The average American is using 80 to 100 gallons of water a day for one day. Meanwhile, people in developing countries can't even find 5 gallons of water to use per day. When we look at, there was a study done by the National Resource Defense Council, and they looked at 1,000 bottles of 103 brands of water, actually, and they were tested, and they were found to contain synthetic organic chemicals, bacteria, and arsenic. Okay, so we're going to be talking about bottled water a lot later too, but a lot of these developing countries, they're getting these bottled waters, and meanwhile when you test them too, there's so many other chemicals going on in there. It's a huge industry. The water industry is actually $400 billion global industry. Who would have ever thought 20 years ago we'd be selling water? Right? 20 years ago, you drank what came out of your faucet. You never thought twice about it. Now it is a $400 billion industry. Interestingly, California's water supply is running out, and they estimate there's about 20 years left of water in the state. So these are some astonishing facts, and people are still getting sick. We in the United States have one of the best water systems in the world. But if you look, 500,000 to 7 million people a year get sick from their drinking water. Okay? In Bolivia, 1 out of every 10 children are dying before the age of 5 because of waterborne illnesses. So there's a lot of issues surrounding water, and these are just some facts that I wanted to share with you. If we look at our body, we can see that the human body consists mainly of water. Knowing that, you see how important water is for us, right? It is in all of our organs. It is transported throughout our body to assist physical function. When a human body does not absorb enough water, dehydration is the result. Okay? And it's not very surprising given that almost 70% of the body is water. So water makes up 83% of our blood, 70% of our brain, and 90% of our lungs. Okay, so that's a huge amount. Water serves as a lubricant. It's the base of saliva. It forms the fluid that surrounds the joints. It regulates our body temperature as the cooling and heating is distributed through perspiration. It helps to alleviate constipation by moving food through the intestinal tract and thereby eliminating waste. And it regulates metabolism. So by the time a person actually feels thirsty, like if you're sitting right now and saying, my goodness, I'm thirsty, I need a glass of water. You have already, your body has already lost over 1% of your total water amount. You already are in dehydration mode. So it's important to, throughout our day, to drink water so that our body could stay hydrated. It needs a lot of water in order to function optimally. Right? So if you're one of those people who says, oh, I don't like water, I don't drink water, you need water, okay? And you need it in order to function properly. And that's why we're talking about this today, is because, you know, we're all here for the spiritual inner quest. But if you're not taking care of this physical body, there's no way you're going to get to these other levels, okay? And your physical body is the first level with which you have to work. So hydrating it properly, taking care of your physical temple is where you start. Everybody wants to go to the skies and to the heavens. No one wants to sort of start with what they're given. But this is what we're given, and this is where we need to start, okay? So if you look at it, our body needs a lot of water. So now the question is, where should we get our water from? And if we look at, you know, where the average person gets their water from, it's the tap, right? Most people will get their water from the tap. So we need to understand the quality of the water that's coming out of our tap. You know, we have to see what's in it. Is it the best choice for us? Okay. Tap water is considered safe for drinking, right? It's treated in the municipal water systems. So they do, you know, a pretty good job of freeing our water up of bacteria and contaminants. But what does that treatment fail to do? What are we still left with when we're drinking our water? And, you know, nowadays in the news, we're hearing a lot of reports of pharmaceuticals in our water and different chemicals in our water. You know, should we be drinking this tap water? So what I want you to take a look at on slide 10 is, you know, the so-called safe tap water is still contaminated with toxic chemicals and carcinogens. 90,000 chemicals known to be on the market that are in use in homes, agriculture, and in industry may end up in our water supply. There are about 2,000 toxic chemicals that have been identified to be present in our water. The Environmental Protection Agency requires testing for only about 100 contaminants. And the test is to make sure that the level does not exceed the acceptable risk level. So except the way they measure acceptable risk level is how many people actually die per 1,000. So the more deaths, the riskier it is. Okay? So there are actually places where 90% of the fish have cancer as a result of the water they're swimming in, because of all the chemicals that are in there. So if we look at, you know, graphic 10, we see so many chemicals around us. You know, we have pesticides, fertilizers, nitrates, chemical spills that are happening, toxic wastes, leaky gas tanks, acid rain, chlorine, fluoride being added to our municipal water treatment center. Copper and lead pipes, just the water going through our pipes. You know, if your pipes are old especially, you're getting, you know, more of that entering into your water system. And septic tanks. You know, all these septic tanks across the world this leaches into our water supply eventually. So this is what our reality is right now. This is what we're up against. Okay, so we need to know how to find the best water source for our bodies. Okay. So if we take a look at where these municipal water systems, as well as bottled water companies, are getting their water, it's all a part of the water cycle or the hydraulic cycle. right? This, the water cycle describes the existence and movement of water on, in, and above the earth. So the Earth's water is always in movement and always changing states, right, from liquid to vapor to ice and back again. And the water cycle has been working for billions of years, right? And all the life on Earth depends on it continuing to work. So if we look at this system, it doesn't matter where you start in the system because it's just all a cycle. But if you take a look at it, it's all just working off of each other, right? It's all changing form and turning, from one state to another state and just moving through the whole system. And we need to think of the Earth as a closed system, right? Like similar to a terrarium. That means that it rarely loses or gains extra matter. So what that means is that the same water that existed millions of years ago is still here today. Because it's not like we can just get new water. Like, where does new water come from? No, new water, we're going to get the rain from the clouds, and that goes into our oceans, and then it gets evaporated, and then it goes up again, and then it goes to turns into a glacier. It's the same water. So now, if you think of that, and you go back to slide 10 with all the chemicals in our tap water, we're just recycling all of this stuff through our whole environment, right? So now, we're hearing about what's happening in Japan with the nuclear meltdown, or well, I don't know if they're calling it a meltdown at this point, but I think it pretty much is, right, with the reactors and stuff. So all that stuff is now creeping into that water system. It's going into the oceans. They've tested, for radioactivity levels, higher than normal, and it's even gone to the West Coast. So now we may think, oh, but Japan's so far away. It's not going to affect me. But really, if we look at the water system again, it's all in our system. It's not like something that we could get away from. Clouds travel, water moves. So this is all of our problem, and we really have to try and take care of the water that we do have on this earth. If we look at slide 12, we're going to take a look at an average municipal water filtration system. And so what happens is water is taken from a surface, right? Water taken from a surface or groundwater is considered raw water. So raw water we're going to distinguish raw water between finished water. Finished water is water that's been treated. Okay, so raw water is treated not just to remove disease-causing organisms, but also to remove all the stuff in it, like silt, grit, any kind of solid materials in there, which can be detrimental to our pipes. So the first level of cleaning out the water is really to sort of take out all of the stuff in it, and they use like big mesh system and to take all of that out. Treating raw water improves the taste, okay, and eliminates the odor. The cleaner and better the quality of the raw water, the easier and cheaper it is to clean, to treat. So, there are systems like, we have reservoirs and we protect those reservoirs because those are systems that have cleaner water supplies. And we use that water, like New York uses systems that are upstate. And the state protects that because they know that's a good source of water for us to bring here. So the amount of treatment that has to go on isn't as extensive. So, but most treatment centers will add chlorination, right, chlorine, because it'll kill all the bacteria. In small rural communities, maybe the drinking water system is a better quality of water. You don't need to do as much treatment. So depending on where you live in the world, your city may not have to do all of these steps. But there are other cities that have to go through these steps and even more steps in order to clean their water. Because remember, the water that we're getting to do this is coming from, maybe one of these sources here who've also had to go through this. Because the same water, this is just leaching into our systems. So that's why these 3 slides are really important, because it just shows which water are we getting to drink. And if you're thinking, oh, but I drink only bottled water, but where's the bottled water coming from? It's coming from here too, right? And a lot of the bottled water is just coming from this place, the municipal water systems. So we're going to talk a lot about bottled water. So if we take a look at what else is in our water, we'll find a lot of pharmaceuticals in our water these days. You know, researchers have found residues of about 100 pharmaceuticals in the water. The use of medication is soaring throughout the world. You know, everybody's on some kind of medication, it seems. And, you know, this is a real challenge to try to keep it out of our water system, because what happens is, you know, people take their medication and your body only uses about 20% of the medication. So guess what happens to the rest of it? It gets processed out through your body and goes down the toilet, right? Out the toilet, goes into the water treatment facility, and that water will get released into the water supply. So what's happening is a lot of these treatment centers can't even take out these pharmaceuticals. So a lot of people also flush medication down the toilet when it's like expired. You know, they'll just flush it down the toilet. So all of that is going into our water supply. And in the Detroit area, they actually found caffeine and nicotine in large concentrations, because when people drink coffee and smoke cigarettes, you know, those stimulants, not all of it, that gets absorbed into the bloodstream and then it passes through as waste. So, you know, it's not pleasant to think about, but a lot of it is coming out through the toilet because a lot of it just gets excreted from our bodies. So we need to also find ways of getting the pharmaceuticals out of our water supply. Another thing that's being put into our water supply is fluoride. Not all areas of the world use fluoride, and we'll talk about which ones are and aren't, but it was first introduced to the water supply back in the 1940s. After a study involving children living in an area that had naturally high levels of fluoride, and these children had low incidence of cavities. So they said, wow, it must be the water. It must be the fluoride. You know, this was naturally occurring fluoride in the water. They said, these children don't have cavities, so it must be the fluoride. We should add fluoride into our water system so nobody will have cavities. And so approximately now in the United States, about 145 million people in more than 10,000 communities drink fluoridated water, okay, for its benefits. But medical researchers say otherwise, because sodium fluoride is not an essential nutrient for maintenance of life. And it only works topically, and it only works to delay cavities. It actually doesn't work to prevent cavities. It only works to delay you getting the cavities. And it only works if you have it on topically. It's never meant to be ingested, okay? When it gets ingested, actually, that's when it could do a lot of damage to our organs. So what they also found was that fluoride does strengthen the outer part of the bone, but it has been shown to make the inside porous and weak. So the outside, you know, can look good, but the inside is very weak. So it's actually, fluoride is, you know, not something that we need in our bodies. And it's actually made from, it's a waste product from the smokestacks of fertilizer plants, and it is a toxin. So they're putting this, you know, waste product into our water system. So they're selling it to these municipal water systems, these municipal water companies, because it's just byproduct. And so they're making money off of selling this waste byproduct to treat our water system. It's actually the only chemical, supposedly medicinally put into our water to treat our water, to treat a health problem. They're calling it a health problem, but really it isn't. So what happens is that small amounts of fluoride actually can interfere with the DNA enzymes that your body uses to repair your body, right? So what happens is that these damaged cells, they can't regenerate, and it actually makes us age quickly, more quickly. Okay. So it also has been shown to cause mineralization of tendons, ligaments, and muscles, causing pain and lack of flexibility. And it actually works in reverse on your bones and teeth by inhibiting mineralization and causing osteoporosis. So thinking that all these reasons, you know, they started putting the fluoride into our system to help our teeth, but in the end, they're doing so many more negative things to our body as a result because it was never meant to be ingested. So how toxic is fluoride? If you look at slide 15, comparing it to lead and arsenic, it's right in the middle. So it is very toxic. It's extremely toxic, actually. It's like right up next to extremely toxic. So that's how toxic fluoride actually is. If we take a look at slide 16, you'll see the percentage of fluoride in the United States. It's added to about 70% of the U.S. water supply. This sort of breaks it down for you by state, and it ranks it as well. So it'll tell you, like, number 1 is Illinois, and Illinois has 100% fluoridation of water. Okay, and then it goes all across to the other states. Some states that have low fluoridation, for example, are Nevada with only 2.2%. But if you take a look at it, Pennsylvania is at 52.3%. New York is at 69.6%. So you could see there's a lot of fluoridation going on. And, like I said, it's being added for the sake of our dental health, yet the benefits for our teeth have not even been proven. So, and to manufacture fluoride, they have to use aluminum, arsenic, lead, and chromium, which are all known to be carcinogens, which are cancer-causing elements. So it's interesting because the American Medical Association is not willing to state that there is no harm caused by fluoridation. They won't say that. They won't say that there is no harm. So it's convenient to have chemical companies save money on costly toxic waste disposal by selling it to the municipalities. And so they get cheap fluoridation that way. So it's actually a way of getting rid of the fluoride. It's also been proven that fluoride in the water may cause health issues in children, and in excessive amounts it can actually cause teeth problems called fluorosis. And so if we take I just wanted to show you first, take a look at where in the world the extent of fluoridation is being used. The darker ones are the countries that use the most fluoridations, and the lighter ones are the least amounts. So if you see the United States, we're at 80 to 100%, basically. So some are unknown, but as you can see, a lot of, most of Australia, all of Australia and New Zealand is as well as Brazil, it looks like. But Europe seems to have figured out that fluoride is not a good idea. So if we take a look at what are the sources of fluoride, we'll see, we know it's in our toothpaste. We know it's in our water. A lot of mouthwashes have it. Something that I never even thought of, which was interesting to me, was, food processed with fluoridated water. Most of the juices that you buy that have water, they're probably using municipal, water, which has fluoride in it. So all of those juices, any of those drinks that have water or anything processed with water probably already has fluoride in it. So we have a lot of fluoride happening all around us, and we don't need any more in our water supply. We have to remember that fluoride was never meant to be ingested. It was only supposed to be used topically. And what they have found as a result of ingesting fluoride is there's risk to the brain, to the thyroid glands, to the bones, higher risk of bone cancer, risk to kidney patients as well, because the kidney cannot excrete the fluoride. So are less cavities worth all of this? It just does not make any sense to me. It really does make no sense. I'd rather have cavities than any of these other things. So we have to ask ourselves, what's going on? Why are they doing it? Is it just for business sake? Is it because they don't know what to do with this fluoride? So they're just selling it? They're actually making money off of people getting sick. So these are some of the things that are going on, and we need to know about it. And something really fascinating as I was studying this is how much fluoride actually affects the pineal gland. And as we know, studying these spiritual doctrine, we know that the pineal gland is such an important part, right? It's where our crown chakra is, right? It's what's connected with superlative intuition. That means tuition with images. So like, when you have a dream, it's sort of like a prophetic dream, you see symbols, and you have to meditate on the symbolism, and you'll see like something happens as a result of it. You may have a dream of someone shooting you, and then later on you see you got fired, or someone's criticizing you greatly. Superlative intuition. So the pineal gland also takes care of our sexual energy, right? It's in control of our sexual glands, of our sexual energy. So now what they're finding is, until the 1990s, there was no research done on fluoride and the impact of the pineal gland. But once they started doing it, they saw that this is where all the extra fluoride gets stored, is in the pineal gland. So what that means is the pineal gland also regulates the melatonin in our body, which is a hormone that helps to let us relax and go to sleep, and also is the onset of puberty. It's the one that controls the onset of puberty. And so what they found was, after doing these tests, that animals treated with fluoride had lower levels of melatonin circulating within their bodies, and this reduced the level of circulating. This created the onset of puberty to happen much quicker in the animals. So nowadays we're talking about why is everybody going into puberty so much faster, and so we say it's the hormones in the food. Well, between the hormones of the food and the fluoride in the water, the toothpaste, and all of this, kids are developing quicker, puberty is happening faster, right? They're having to deal with all of these feelings inside, these, the lustful things that happening much earlier than we had to. Normal puberty happened at 15, 16, only 20, 30 years ago. Now it's happening at 9 and 10 and 11. So it's happening a lot quicker. And so the water is, all the fluoride in the water is actually damaging our pineal gland. So luckily here, we teach how to regenerate the body, right? We teach through transmutation. We teach through all the exercises how to regenerate the body. And we need to be able to do that because there are so many, between the food and the water, there are so many things that are against us right now. So being able to learn this doctrine and to practice it is going to help to rejuvenate that which we actually have to battle against in this society. Because there's a lot of things that they're doing just for the sake of money, this being one of them. So after they did lots of studies, they also saw that people who lived in areas where there was fluoridated water actually had higher cancer deaths than unfluoridated areas. So there's a lot of cancer being linked to the amounts of fluoride as well in the water. Interesting enough as well, they found correlations between the fluoride levels and IQ. So they did this study in China actually with 512 children and ages 8 to 13. And what they found, there was varying degrees of fluoride in the communities where these children lived. It was a village in China. And the group that lived in the Chinese village with high fluoride levels actually had lower IQ levels. The children that lived in the areas that had low fluoride levels had actually higher IQ. And what was even more disturbing was 15% of the highly fluoridated children scored low enough to indicate mental retardation versus only 6% in the other village. So that's a big difference. So they're showing that fluoride is actually affecting the intelligence, of children, because what happens is up to about age 6 is when the child, it affects the child. After age 6, it doesn't affect them as much. So if you have young children, I would really limit their exposure to fluoride within the toothpaste as well as within the water. Okay. Another disturbing thing that I found out was that fluoride actually has been used to modify behavior and mood. With prisoners in Nazi Germany, in the prison camps, and in the Soviet gulags, they would put fluoride compounds into the drinking water to help keep them docile and inhibit questioning of authority. Yeah, so they already knew about this in World War II. And interestingly enough, we started getting it added to our water supply in 1940. So, I mean, you put 2 and 2 together. It's kind of a strange coincidence, or what is it a coincidence? So it's kind of sad. It's like the drugging of our, right, trying to drug us to keep us docile. Between fast food and water, forget about it. We'll just be brain dead. All right, this is what too much fluoride does to the teeth. Fluorosis. So we're putting it into the water in order to prevent cavities. But an ingestion of excess fluoride causes fluorosis of the teeth and the bones. Not only does this happen to your teeth, but this happens to your bones. So on the slide number 24, on the top left, you'll see mild fluorosis. And that's only like little white spots on the teeth that start happening. And then you sort of see varying degrees. And on the bottom right, you see severe fluorosis. Now this looks really nasty, doesn't it? This is the obvious fluorosis. Now imagine the same thing happening to your bones inside of your body where you can't see it. So it's basically just eating away at the teeth. Okay, and this is, like I said, caused by excessive intake of fluoride. And so now they're saying if they dentists start seeing this happening within the teeth, they tell you to cut back on the fluoride. But this is what fluoride causes. And also, another thing for fluorosis may be, not getting enough vitamin D and A or low protein diet. But ingestion of fluoride after age 6 will not cause dental fluorosis. So really, this is for kids from birth to 6, really being careful in limiting their ingestion of fluoride, because it can cause skeletal fluorosis. Okay, and at that point, that's when severe cases, the bone structure may change and ligaments may calcify, actually. Okay, with resulting impairment of muscles and pain. So acute high-level exposure to fluoride also causes immediate effects of abdominal pain, excessive saliva, nausea, and vomiting. Seizure and muscle spasms may also occur. This is a toxic chemical. And this is what we have in our water system. On slide 25, they actually found in 1991, the Poison Control Center reported a death because of the ingestion of fluoride. Only 1/10 of an ounce of fluoride could kill a 100-pound adult. According to the center, fluoride toothpaste contains up to 1 milligram of fluoride. Even Procter & Gamble, the makers of Crest, acknowledged that a family-sized tube theoretically contains enough fluoride to kill a small child. So don't leave toothpaste hanging around your kids. They start eating that up, it could theoretically kill them. Also, fluorides are medically categorized as protoplasmic poisons, which is why they are used to kill rodents. So these are actually being used to kill rodents. Fluoride is one of the ingredients. Lovely, isn't it? Makes you want to go brush your teeth. Now, very interestingly, on page 27, in an unprecedented admission, the U.S. government now says there's too much fluoride in our water. In an ABC News article published on January 7th, 2011, just happened a couple months ago, they state, in a remarkable turnabout, federal health officials say many Americans are now getting too much fluoride because of its presence, not just in drinking water, but in toothpaste, mouthwash, and other products. And it's causing splotches on children's teeth and perhaps more serious problems. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced plans Friday to lower the recommended level of fluoride in drinking water for the first time in nearly 50 years, based on a fresh review of the science. So, at least they're going to review it and lower the levels. I don't know by how much, but that is some good news there. The 10 cities with the best dental health in the United States. If we look on slide 28. San Jose, California came out as number 1, and they do not add fluoride to their water. So the number one city in the United States with the best dental health does not have fluoride in their water system. Also, some of the other cities, they don't have any fluoride either. You know, we see Anchorage, Alaska, they're not fluoridated. Colorado Springs, they're not fluoridated. Boise, Idaho, they're not fluoridated. So how is it that these best, the best dental health in these cities are happening in non-fluoridated places? So how important is fluoride actually to the dental health? You want to see the worst cities? Okay. 8 of the top 10 worst cities for teeth are fluoridated. So 8 out of the 10 worst cities are fluoridated. Sorry, St. Louis, you are number 1 for the worst teeth. And then followed by Philadelphia. Don't we have some Philadelphians here? All right, you are fluoridated. And yet you are number 2. Newark, New Jersey, number 3. Baltimore, New Orleans. Jersey City, poor Jersey's got 2 of them up there. But as you see, 8 of the top 10 worst cities are fluoridated. So what does that say for fluoride? If it was so great, why would they all be up there? So some steps to reduce fluoride exposure. Obviously, do not take fluoride supplements. Make sure you read your bottled beverages, because unless they're being made from distilled water or reverse osmosis, they're probably being made with fluoridated public water. Consider using unfluoridated toothpaste. I use unfluoridated toothpaste. They make great ones now. Tom's of Maine has them. I mean, they're all over the place. I'm trying to get my husband to stop using his beloved Crest, which he tells me, but my dentist told me it's the best toothpaste. I was like, okay, that was like 100 years ago. And anyway, you didn't know about fluoride damage, and all those problems. So I hide it on him when he doesn't know and make him use mine. But really, nowadays, it's real easy to get a good flavor. There's some with myrrh and propolis, and there's some nice flavors out there. Avoid drinking black or red tea. These come from 2 different types of plants, but both of these leaves have naturally high level amounts of fluorine. Okay, so they just naturally have high amounts. I mean, sometimes, once in a while is fine, but if that's your only type of tea you're drinking, you might be getting too much exposure. Canned fish, canned food items, we've spoken against them, but fluoride is used as a preservative in a lot of the canned foods. So another great reason why not to eat canned foods, right? There's fluoride preserving it. Red or black rock salt, that has high levels of fluorine. Okay, don't chew tobacco. I know I have a lot of chewing tobacco people here. No, I'm kidding, but don't chew it. It'll expose. All right, and avoid long-term use of medication that contains fluorine. Certain antidepressants and medication for osteoporosis contain fluorine. How ironic that osteoporosis, right, which is the bones weakening, contain fluorine, and meanwhile fluoride actually causes that to happen even more. So do you see how stuff is not making sense? Actually kind of scary when you see it all. So some ways to remove fluoride from your water. There's only a few ways to really remove the fluoride in your water. And like I said, you've got to find out if they add fluoride to your water system. Not everybody does. Reverse osmosis filtration does, distillation, and activated alumina defluoridation filters. Now I'm going to go over a few of these a bit later, but these are the 3 systems that actually take out the fluoride from your water system. Okay. I personally use the activated alumina defluoridation filter, and I'm very happy with it so far. Ones that do not remove fluoride, the Brita, the Pure, most of those filters, some of them say they do, but if you go to their websites and you read the fine line, they don't. Boiling water, some people think, I'll just boil my water. That'll purify it. Actually, what it does is it concentrates the fluoride instead of reducing it. So you get higher levels because the water is evaporating and you're just stuck with the fluoride and the other chemicals. Freezing water also doesn't affect the fluoride. So some good news, all of you Western Europeans out there, 97% of you have chosen to have fluoride-free water. This includes Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Northern Ireland, Norway, Scotland, Sweden, and Switzerland. So while some European countries add fluoride to salt, the majority do not. Thus, rather than mandating fluoride treatment for the whole population, Western Europe allows individuals the right to choose or refuse fluoride, which is really what we want, in the United States as well. A lot of people oppose fluoridation of water, and yet they still do it. And this is what I was trying to get to before, is fluoride is the only chemical added to drinking water for the purpose of medication in order to prevent tooth decay. All other treatment chemicals are added to treat the water to improve the water's quality and safety, which fluoride does not do. This is one of the reasons why most Europe has rejected fluoridation, because really it's medication that they're adding to our water. So that was the lovely ugliness of fluoridation. Now we're going to go to something else that they put. This actually is put into most water, is chlorine. And chlorine is a natural occurring element, but it's a very dangerous toxin. It's bleach. It's basically what you use to disinfect. In small quantities, it can be poisonous. Did you ever clean with bleach and afterwards you feel it? I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like it's just too toxic for me. It feels great when everything's clean afterwards, but the process of doing it, I feel like I'm killing every living thing on my body. Many animals, including humans, need chlorine, but there's a limit to how much we can physically tolerate. And it's been used for a long time to actually disinfect the water because it gets rid of E. coli and Giardia. But let's talk about, what is the cost of having chlorine in our water. So chlorinated water destroys much of the intestinal flora, the friendly bacteria that helps with the digestion of food in our intestines. And that bacteria is what protects us from harmful pathogens. So it also produces vitamin B12 and vitamin K. It helps to manufacture those. So by putting chlorine in our water, we're actually destroying a lot of our good bacteria in our intestines. Also, there are components in there that are carcinogens. And so what happens with these carcinogens, they're chemicals known as organochlorides. And they don't degrade very well. And what happens is they get stored in our fatty tissue. So in our breasts, in our fatty areas, mother's milk, blood, and semen. And what happens is these cause mutations by altering the DNA, suppress the immune system function, and interfere with the natural control of cell growth. That's huge. This is getting stored in, even in your semen, in your blood, and causing these problems with our DNA. Chlorine has also been documented to aggravate asthma, especially in those children who swim a lot in chlorinated swimming pools. Several studies also link chlorine and chlorinated byproducts to greater incidence of bladder, breast, and bowel cancer, as well as malignant melanoma. One study even linked it to congenital cardiac anomalies. It's also not uncommon for skin conditions like acne, psoriasis, eczema to clear up significantly once you start washing with unchlorinated drinking water and supplementing your diet with good bacteria like acidophilus. So actually chlorine, yes, it's killing the E. coli and the Giardia, but what are the other things it's doing in our body? So these are a lot of the other things. So in a filtration system, you want to make sure you get rid of that chlorine. Now, what's even worse than drinking that water is actually showering and bathing in that water. Because what happens is when you shower and bathe in it, it's twice as risky because of the steam. Tap water contains at least as much, if not more, chlorine than the recommended use for swimming pools. Most chlorine enters the body through the dermal absorption, right, through our skin, and inhalation while showering than through drinking tap water. So, you know, being in the shower, our pores open, right? And all that absorption of the chlorine goes into our bodies. Lovely, I'm nice and open, and all of it gets sucked up into our bodies. So it dries our hair, our skin. It can cause rashes and skin irritations. And what happens is that, you know, you're breathing that steam, and so that steam is going directly into your lungs, causing asthma, bronchitis, lung issues. So if you're someone who suffers from these, you know, lung issues, dry skin, eczema, psoriasis, actually everybody and anybody should get a filter on their shower because you want to get rid of this chlorine. It's even been suspected of causing breast cancer because of all that storage in the breast of the chlorine. Okay. So actually, I have a shower filter. It's real inexpensive. They're fabulous. It takes out the chlorine from your water. I suffer from asthma, but since I've been doing natural remedies and taking care of my body, eating the right foods, drinking the right water, I don't have any symptoms. And, you know, I am a bath lover. I love the hot shower. Give me a hot bath. So I used to be soaking in the bathtub before I knew all this stuff. So I was basically soaking in a nice big pile of chlorine and absorbing it all and aggravating my lungs. And I would suffer from dry skin. And since I have since I bought a shower filter, my skin feels better. My hair feels healthier. My lungs feel better because I'm not ingesting all of that chlorine through my skin, through my lungs, through the steam. And I can still take my hot showers and my hot baths. But now I haven't taken a bath yet with it. I'm figuring I'm going to have to pour the water from the shower into the tub and fill it up that way because there's no connection to my tub faucet. But I will let you know how that goes. So there are 10 benefits to using a shower filter, and one of the easiest, it's one of the easiest and most effective ways to get rid of harmful exposure to chlorine and other chemicals. It's going to give you better respiratory health. This is very interesting. Chlorine is a leading cause of fatigue. Chlorine-free water results in higher energy levels and overall greater health. So if you battle with fatigue, it might be the chlorine in your water. Okay? It results in better air quality throughout your house because remember, when you shower, right, all of that then goes into the rest of your house. You open the door and all of that chlorine enters the rest of your house. Reduces appearance of wrinkles. Everybody who's wrinkle wary and doesn't want wrinkles, it'll get rid of the wrinkles. And it also will moisturize the skin, the hair, the whole body better because then your own oils are going to just be coming out and moisturizing your body. Okay, so everybody, shower filter time. And again, the question, so does boiling water help? And again, the answer is no. It's just concentrating the chemicals more. So you really just have a nice hot pot of chemicals in the end. So that's why even when you make tea and when you make soup, it's important to use filtered water. So the big question, is drinking bottled water better? Okay, so I just told you all the horrible truths about tap water. And all of you now are sitting there going, I don't want to drink tap water. God, it's got fluoride and chlorine and thousands of chemicals. And okay, so let's see if drinking bottled water is a better solution. Okay, if we look at slide 40, I love this slide. It starts out on the upper left and it says, even though we have some of the best and safest tap water in the world, Americans still buy upward of 28 billion bottles of water a year. Manufacturing this uses as much as 45 to 50 million barrels of oil and produces up to 3 tons of CO2 a year. 80% of the used bottles wind up in landfills, not in recycling. Plastic bottles heated in the sun can leach chemicals into the water. And on a per ounce basis, bottled water costs twice or more what gasoline does and can be up to 1,000 times the cost of tap water. But isn't it worth it since they no doubt bottle it from some pristine, mysterious source? And as you see, 40% of bottled water is actually tap water from another municipality. 40% of your bottled water that you're paying more money for is just tap water anyway. Don't you just love wasting money? So, are you paying 1,900 times more for unhealthy, earth-damaging water? If you drink bottled water, the answer is yes. Bottled water typically costs more than $1.50 per bottle, which is about 1,900 times the price of tap water. Yet, that very same bottled water that you're paying a premium for, in about 40% of cases, simply is bottled tap water, which may or may not receive any additional treatment. On top of that, most municipal water, tap water must actually adhere to more strict purity standards than the bottled water industry. Further, while the EPA requires large public water supplies to test for contaminants as often as several times a day, most municipal tap water facilities have to test their water several times a day. The FDA requires private bottlers to test for contaminants only once a week, once a year, or once every 4 years, depending on the contaminant. That's just crazy. I mean, at least the municipal water system is getting tested a few times a day. These bottled water once a year? An independent test performed by the Environmental Working Group revealed 38 low-level contaminants in bottled water, with each of the 10 tested brands containing an average of 8 chemicals, including disinfection byproducts, caffeine, Tylenol, nitrate, industrial chemicals, arsenic, and bacteria. Sounds good. So that's the bottled water. Let's see what people are drinking. I just wanted to show you a few examples of water being the new wine for the rich people. You know, it doesn't matter if they all taste the same. What matters is the status symbol associated with drinking a particular brand of water. So these are some of the most expensive bottled waters compiled from Forbes Traveler. Let's take a look at Bling. Bling H2O, initially introduced only to hand-selected athletes and actors. Only hand-selected actors and athletes could get it. Bling H2O is now available to the rest of us mere mortals. It has made appearances at the MTV Music Video and Emmy Awards, but did anyone tell the celebrities that the water comes from Dandridge, Tennessee? It's just water from Tennessee. Never mind the point in this case. Never mind this point. It's just that the bottle itself is made with Swarovski crystals that spell out the word Bling. The frosted glass bottle is labeled Limited Edition Spring Water, and it is sealed with a cork. You can buy Bling in bottles without crystals, but why would you? So one bottle of Bling costs $36.75. If you want a case, that'll cost you $441 for 12 bottles. Water from Tennessee is very expensive. And then we have we have Veen, which is here on the bottom left. And this one costs, this is cheaper, $23.75 a bottle, or $228 per 12 bottles. And then we have over here, it's called 10,000 BC. It's actually from British Columbia. It's not water that is 10,000 years old. It's just British Columbia water. And that goes for $12.92, but if you want the Bejeweled bottle, it'll cost you $45.83. So now let me ask you, what are we paying for here? The bottle. These, I think, are just rich people who don't know what to do with their money. They should donate it to Glorianne. I mean, when I saw this, it was just mind-boggling to me that, you know, okay, this is an extreme example, but we're doing the same thing basically, guys. When we buy all the cheaper brands, it's basically the same thing. This just is sort of the extreme ridiculous amount. But yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. I've never seen a Bling. Has anyone else? I mean, I guess that's out of our price range. Okay. So drinking from plastic bottles is not a wise health move either. When you drink bottled water, you not only need to think about the water, but you also need to think about the bottle itself. Because plastic is not an inert substance as manufacturers would like you to think. It contains chemicals like BPA, phthalates, I want to pronounce that like phthalates, there's not enough vowels in that word, which mimic hormones in your body. So actually what they have found is the plastic bottles, through the chemicals that they have, are actually acting like estrogen in your body. So it's putting more estrogen in your body. And not only that, but even tiny concentrations can cause problems like damage to your brain, hyperactivity, aggressiveness, impaired learning, risk of obesity. Who thought water would give you a risk of obesity, right? They say drink lots of water, but because of the plastic bottle and the way it's affecting us, the chemicals in the plastic is affecting us, these are the causes. Altered immune system, early puberty, stimulation of mammary gland development, disrupted reproductive cycles, and ovarian dysfunction. You know how nowadays so many women are having trouble getting pregnant, right? Well, no wonder if you're drinking, a lot of them are drinking bottled water and eating chemicalized foods. Changes in gender-specific behavior and abnormal sexual behavior. Stimulation of prostate cancer cells and increased prostate size and decreased sperm production. Scary stuff in the bottles. Now, not only is that dangerous, but anytime you drink from a plastic bottle, you risk exposure, yes. But if you leave your bottle of water in a hot car, or if you reuse it, so you finished it and you fill it up again, your exposure is magnified because heat and stress increase the amount of chemicals that leach out of the plastic. So, sometimes you say, oh, I'll leave a case of water in the car, that way I have it. You're just increasing the exposure to all the chemicals. Mm-hmm. And sadly, the plastic is hurting our earth in a very drastic way because when we process plastic, it releases a lot of toxic compounds like nickel, ethyl benzene, ethyl oxide, and ethylene oxide and benzene. The U.S. alone uses 1.5 million barrels of oil to make plastic water bottles, the majority of which will end up in landfills anyway. 1,500 bottles of water bottles are thrown away every second. Every second, 1,500 bottles. And corporations, in order to get this water to fill the bottles, they're pumping water from underground aquifers. And these are the natural springs that, they serve as water supplies for nearby streams, wells, farms, and all of this aggressive pumping is prematurely drying it out. So this is water that's been there for so many, thousands, millions of years, and they're pumping it at such great speeds that we're drying out some of our largest aquifers. I was listening to the news, and they say that the next great war will not be fought for oil, but for water. And now take a look at this. Slide 46. When I saw this, my heart really broke. The massive waste of about 1,500 water bottles being thrown away every second is adding to what is now known as this plastic stew, which is twice the size of Texas in the Pacific Ocean. Twice the size of Texas. This Captain Charles Moore, who 11 years ago discovered this, it's now known as the North Pacific Garbage Patch. He returned back there in 2009 after 11 years, and he expected it to be bigger, right? But what he found was it was 20 to 30 times bigger than the first time he saw it. Now there are reports that there are 3 or 4 such gyres filled with plastic in other parts of the ocean. A gyre is a spiral oceanic surface current. It goes around in circles. And so there's all this plastic just going around in circles. There's about 3 or 4 of them, huge ones like this, existing in the ocean. The Eastern Garbage Patch, the trail of plastic goes on for hundreds of miles. This captain was so depressed and stunned, he sailed for a week through the bobbing toxic debris, trapped in a purgatory of circling currents. For a week, this is what he went through. You know, plastic is everywhere. It's not biodegradable. So what that means is it just breaks down into smaller pieces. It doesn't disappear. It just keeps breaking down into smaller pieces, into toxic pieces. So the fish are eating it. The marine animals are eating it. They took a fish, they opened it up, and they found all plastic inside of the fish. You know how before we used to have sea glass? Now we have plastic on the oceans. There's on the beaches. I saw this beach that just had all plastic all over the beach in little pieces. So these don't disappear. They end up in the oceans. And this is what's happening. They're ending up in the middle of the ocean. So next time you want to reach for a plastic bottle of something, think about where it's going to end up, because there's nowhere to put it. So what I recommend is for us to find ways of reducing our plastic consumption. Because really, this is our only alternative, because it's not going anywhere. That means it's going to be around here for generations to come. And we're just polluting our earth. So on slides 47 and 48, I put 51 ways to reduce plastic use. And what I really want you to do is find something on this list and do it. Because no one person can make a difference. But if all of us pick a couple of these initiatives and really do it, at least we're going to be affecting the amount we're using. There are some great ideas. I mean, I was reading it and I'm like, I never thought of that. I never thought of that. And so now I'm going, you know, I really want to start doing some of it. Some of it you may be like, no way, I can't do that. But other things you may be able to do. You know, I saw a couple of things that I wanted to do. Package your leftovers in Corningware. That's easy. Don't buy those plastic containers. Buy the glass ones or buy the reusable ones. That's a really simple thing to do. Say paper, not plastic at the grocery store. Or bring your own reusable bags, right? If you go to buy coffee, bring your own cup, your reusable cup. You know, some simple things like that. Now, there's other ones, you know, bake your own bread. Some of you may be like, I don't have time to bake my own bread. But, you know, that might not be for you. But for some people, it will be. And the rest of them are here, actually, on slide 48. You know, there's some really good ideas. A simple thing like this, one I never even thought of. When ordering drinks, say no straw, please. You know, that straw will be around for more than 100 years. Saying no to the straw is just one simple way of not adding to that plastic. You know, don't use plastic cutting boards. Use wood or glass. 48. Make a compost heap to reduce your food waste and put it back into the earth. Fabulous thing.
Great idea from New York.
Huh?
Great idea from New York.
Actually, yeah, you can do it. They have ones that you can have in your apartment. So they are doable. Okay, make your own yogurt in a glass mason jar. It's easy. Instead of buying a plastic thing of yogurt every time. And 51, this is one that I want all of you to really do, is spread the word. Tell people about the harmful chemicals in plastic, the Pacific garbage patch, and help reduce plastic use by example. You know, we all, by example, we show others how to live a better life. And this is just one other way. This is our earth. We only have this earth. That's it. We're not getting another one. There's no backup. There's no other one in case this doesn't work out. This is what we're left with. And it's really up to us. What are we doing with it? So, did everyone find something they could do? Now, this is the hard one for me that I'm going to try and give up. Don't use the Ziploc bags. Oh, I love those little Ziploc bags. But I will try to not buy them anymore. You know, so, did everyone find something? Yes? All right, I'll keep this list up later, too, in case you need to look at it, okay? All right, so conclusion about tap water. What do you think is my conclusion? Sorry, bottled water, not tap water. My bottled water conclusion. So what you are paying for is often no different or even worse than the water that comes out of your faucet. When you factor in other elements like the chemicals that can leach from the plastic bottles into your water and its impact on the environment, bottled water becomes a losing proposition no matter how you look at it. So there's no good reason, unless you're like in a place where the water is really bad quality. Some of these countries you go to, you're going to get sick from it. There you have to drink the bottled water. But most of us here in the United States, we don't need to be doing that. And in other parts of the world, there's really no reason to be having to drink bottled water. Every time you want to buy a bottle of water, think about where it's going to end up. So 2 movies I highly recommend. This is your homework assignment, everybody. Tapped. Okay, it's a film that examines the role of the bottled water industry and its effect on health, climate change, pollution, and our reliance on oil. Really great movie. You could see it online for free even. And the other one is called Thirst. Is water a human right or a commodity to be bought and sold in a global marketplace? So I haven't seen Thirst yet. I've found it highly regarded, so that's going to be my homework assignment, is to watch it. But I wanted to share that with you because it's supposed to be a fabulous look at how water has become a commodity. And shouldn't it be for everybody? Everybody here on Earth? Okay, so we see all the reasons why we shouldn't drink bottled water. And some of you are sitting there going, oh my goodness, but I always drink bottled water, and I thought it was the best. And so what am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to drink? So I'll be honest with you. I was one of those bottled water drinkers. And my husband always laughed at me. He says, you think this is better? You think this is better? And he'd drink from the tap, and I'd be like, get me some bottled water, please. And honestly, I thought it was better. Because I said, well, I don't know what's in the tap water. And really, it was my laziness to find out, too. So once I started investigating, and once I started seeing what was in the tap water, I said, there's got to be a better alternative. Because I was winding up with all these bottles, too, and it didn't feel right. I felt very wasteful, and I didn't feel like really, in the end, when you drink bottled water, you can, taste the plastic? Do you ever get that? It doesn't taste like clean water. It tastes like you're drinking something chemically, even like plasticky. So I was like, this can't be good. And then I see it sitting, it goes in the trucks when they deliver them, like these hot trucks, like in the summertime. Those things are not refrigerated. That water's sitting there for who knows how long, so all the chemicals are leaching in it. And then it goes into the back of supermarkets and sits there some more in the heat. And so I was like, this can't be good. And then I started hearing more and more about the reasons why we shouldn't drink it. And so what I did was I started investigating. And what I found was I needed to filter my tap water. Now, has anybody tried to figure out how to filter their tap water? Okay. Did you find a million choices how to filter your tap water, right? So that's what happened to me. I was like, oh my goodness, there are too many choices on, how to filter my tap water. Yet this is the cheapest way and the most environmentally friendly solution for drinking water. So if you care about our environment and you care about your health, you're going to try and figure out what works best for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the most common filtration systems out there, and then you're going to have to choose for yourself based on what's in your water. So the first thing you need to do is find out what is in your water. And annually they give you a report of what's in your water. That thing that arrives in the mail that you never really look at too long? It's like all this names, and yeah, I looked at mine, and there's a lot of stuff in the water. So I said, okay, so I got to figure it out. And this is what's most commonly, on slide 52, this is what most commonly is in municipal water. So there's pesticides and herbicides and pharmaceuticals, all those organic compounds. Then there's toxic metals, lead, mercury, aluminum, cadmium, chromium, copper. You see the et cetera? There's too many to write. So we're just giving you some of the big ones. Bacteria and viruses, Giardia and Cryptosporidium. That does not sound good. That should not be in the water. Cryptosporidium. Radioactive substances, radon and uranium. And additives like chlorine, chloramines, and fluoride. So we already know about the chlorine, the fluoride, but all this other stuff we got to get rid of. All right. So this is what, on slide 53, this is what you need to ask yourself as you're figuring out what water treatment device is best for you. Question number 1 says, determine your water treatment needs. You know, so first you got to figure out what are your quality concerns. Does your water taste funny? You know, does it have a weird smell? Is it discolored? You know, you've got to figure out what it is you're trying to fix in your water. And everybody's going to have a different water. Like some people may be getting their water from a well. Some may be getting it from the city municipal system. Number 2 is determine which products can treat your concerns. Now, there are a lot of different systems out there. There are distillers and reverse osmosis. There's filter media. There's softeners. There's ultraviolet disinfection. So you're going to have to see what do you have to get rid of in your water. And select the product that best suits your needs. There's some on the counter. There's some under the counter. There's some that hook up to your main water system. There's lots of different types. So this is what you really need to think of. And this is what I thought about when I was figuring out what was going to be best for me. So let's start out with reverse osmosis, okay? And honestly, when I started my search, I said, reverse osmosis, that's what I'm going to get. I heard that's the best. So what I found was there are some, the pros to reverse osmosis is that, you know, it will remove virtually all of the pollutants. Right, such as disinfection byproducts, fluoride, arsenic, lead, drugs in the water supply, rocket fuel. What is rocket fuel doing in our water? Bacteria and viruses. Okay, so it will do that, but the cons are it is an expensive system, and it removes the minerals that should be in the water. So what happens is when you remove all the minerals in there, the water becomes like a magnet for the minerals inside of your own body, and it'll start to leach those minerals out of your own body because you're drinking technically like dead water. So because the water doesn't have any of its minerals, it'll try to suck the ones out of your body. Okay. Also, it damages the structure of the water. And for 1 gallon of water, you need about 3 gallons to filter. So all you're getting is about 1 gallon of drinking water per every 3 other gallons. It's similar to distilled water, but it's less acidic. And remember, anything, when you have an acidic level in your body, that's what causes illnesses. That encourages bacterial growth and viruses in your body. So you always want to have water. Water in its natural state is a balanced pH level. Sort of right in the middle, and that's what you want. You don't want it to be too acidic or too pH. Okay, so what I did find, though, which I didn't know when I was investigating first, when I was doing my own investigations, is that there are some solutions to treating these problems, the cons to reverse osmosis. The first thing is they say, okay, so it demineralizes, there's no minerals in the water. Well, they say that if you add some high-quality salt, like Himalayan salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon to gallon, it'll remineralize the water. So that's a good solution. And then to restructure the water, because the water structure is actually broken down, you have to create a vortex. And what you can do is put a large spoon in the container and swirl it around real fast. And you do that for a little while, and it will actually restructure the water. It'll repair it. So also getting it very cold will also restructure it. So just doing those 2 things. If you have your heart set on a reverse osmosis system, you have to make sure that you remineralize it and you add that, you restructure it again. Okay? But this may be a good choice for some of you out there. If you have a lot of pollutants and a lot of things in your water, you want to make sure you want to get that rocket fuel out. You know, you may want to. The next type of common filtration system is distillation. And I actually used this for a while. And then when I went to my acupuncturist and I told him what water I was drinking, he says, don't drink that water. That's dead water. That's not good for your body. So I stopped drinking it because I didn't realize that, honestly. But when I was making kombucha for a time, which is a fermented drink, it always called for distilled water, right? So I used to always make it for this, and that's sort of how I got drinking it. But again, it has that same thing. It through distillation, it becomes demineralized. So you have to do the same thing of adding the salt back into it, okay? Because it is known as dead water. It strips all of the natural trace elements of the water, okay? This is the most expensive water because it takes a lot of water to flush through the system. This is even takes more than reverse osmosis. Okay, and it does not remove harmful chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, and chlorine solution. So you're still stuck with that. Okay, you know, this is a good. A lot of times when you're doing photo or print shops, they say use distilled water, right? For that, it's good, but for drinking on a daily basis, it's probably not your best option. Okay. It will get rid of bacteria and viruses, lead, arsenic, and mercury. And, oh, this is really good for areas where they have a lot of, like in developing countries, they use distillation because they have a lot of serious issues, waterborne diseases and stuff, and it will get rid of waterborne diseases. But none of us live in a developing country, so distillation is probably not your best solution. So carbon filtration, this has been around for thousands of years, carbon filtration. And unlike reverse osmosis and distillation, this is not limited to the type of contaminants it can remove. It can remove a wide variety because what happens is it goes through this carbon system and it'll just clear out everything. But the best type of carbon system, you should get a solid block carbon filter because that's going to make sure that it gets rid of everything. They're the best and the most effective filters available, the solid block ones, because there are a lot of ones that say, oh, we're a carbon filtration system, but make sure it's a solid block one. So it's, you know, the pros are that it absorbs chemical contaminants because they stick to the surface. It won't remove the minerals from the water, and it's the only one of the three that's capable of removing all of the chlorine byproducts, volatile organic chemicals, herbicides, insecticides, all of that. And it extracts the chlorine-resistant protozoa giardia and the cryptosporidium from the drinking water. So that's really good. But like I said, the cons would be if you don't get that solid block carbon filter, then you won't be getting everything out. So when you're looking for them, make sure that you get one with that solid block. The Berkey water systems use that. And I have a Berkey system. I'm very happy with it. I actually, after all this research, I was like, I started out with the Berkey system, and I got, what you have to realize is not everything's going to take out the fluoride, right? Remember when we said what takes out the fluoride? Reverse osmosis does, and one of those other systems do. With the Berkey system, you could actually buy the fluoride filters, and they attach as well. And so that'll help to clean your water. What I chose to, the movie Tapped actually liked the multi-pure systems. So I got a system, a ceramic, a carbon filtration system that attaches to my sink. And then with that water, I take it and I fill it with the Berkey system. And yeah, I have two. I was like, after all of this, I got two. So I have something that looks like on slide 51 on the left. It sort of looks like that, but it's just a one system. And then the middle one is an example of a Berkey system. And the nice thing that I like about it is because you pour the water into it, it goes through the filter on the top, and then I have filters on the bottom for the fluoride. And then so you have a nice spout, and you have like drinking water. And you could take this anywhere with you. They have a travel size one. They said you could even pour water from a pool, a chlorinated pool, into this, and it will take out everything and you could actually drink it. So in case of like, you know, no water supply left, you could actually use pool water. Or like lake water or pond water. This will actually get rid of everything. So I figured between my sink and this, I'm covered both ways. And I have good news to share with you. I recommend everybody do this too. Get a drinking water test kit. You could get one. They're cheap. They're less than $15, about $10, $12. And what this does, it tests for bacteria, lead, pesticides, nitrates, nitrites, chlorine, hardness, and pH. Very easy to do. And I did mine, and I am happy to say I passed all the tests with flying colors. That was in all the optimal ranges. So my filter system works. So now I have to buy another one and actually do the tap water because I want to see how bad my tap water comes out. But it's real fun. It's easy. And it just makes you feel a little bit better that you're drinking something of good quality. Okay? So this is just one example of a drinking water test kit. Very easy to use. Okay? Okay, so another thing, what they do with nowadays is ultraviolet disinfection. And so what they use with this is, like those ultraviolet lights, So they use this, but this cannot be used on its own because it won't remove organisms from the water. It only inactivates them. This would be used in combination with one of the other systems. You'd have to do reverse osmosis, water softening, or filtration of some sort before you use this. But as you're researching, what you're going to find is they add this as like a bonus. They'll say, do you want ultraviolet disinfection too? Right? So you pay an extra $150 and you get that as well. So you'll get like the filter that goes with your sink plus this little system, and it's just like one other way of making, it's like the final touch to make sure everything that should be dead is dead on its way out and to you. But I didn't think I needed it, and I'm fine with it. So, but some people like it, and they want to add this on to their system as well. Okay. So, slide 58. I know all of you are sitting here, going, well, which water should I drink now? Because I don't know. I want a glass of water. I don't know what to drink. So, I am going to tell you where you can find the best water in the world. Anybody have any ideas where we can find the best water in the world?
Spring water.
Yeah. So let's talk about where we can get that. The best water in the world is actually water from gravity-fed mountain springs, okay? From water that just naturally comes out of the ground, right? It's filtered by the earth. It's structured, and it's also not pasteurized or heated like mostly all commercial bottled waters. There's living organisms in it, so you'll see like algae and beneficial things. It's sort of like pasteurizing milk. You know how you kill all the good stuff when you pasteurize milk? You kill all the good stuff when you boil water too, raw water, good water. And so the beautiful thing is you can actually go to www.findaspring.com, and what you can do is go there. There's springs within like an hour of most people's houses, and you can find a spring. Most of them are free, so you're going to be getting the best water. No charge. You just bring your containers with you. Don't bring plastic. Bring glass, okay? Or else you're just messing up your nice, perfect water. And bring like glass jugs. 3-gallon jugs would probably be the easiest. If you buy anything bigger than that, you're going to be carrying around. It's going to be too heavy. So probably like 3-gallon jugs with a cork, would be your best scenario. What this also does, it's a nice way to get out of the city. I looked up New York, and there's tons of them within like an hour or two from here. And you can just go. This is an example of one that I found. So you literally just stick your bottles under there, you cork them up, and you take them home. And so you have this water at home. You get out of the city, you can enjoy the country a little bit, and this is really your best scenario. I was thinking about this. I'm like, okay, so I haven't done it yet. I'm planning to now that winter's over. And I was wondering, though, will I just drink it like that with the algae and everything? It sounds good, right? But I'm like, maybe I'll put it through my Berkey system first, just to be sure. So, but it's supposed to be the best stuff for you. This is the raw water. This is in its natural state. There's no processing. There's no, So they say that this is really the best water for us to get. Obviously, this is what we used to live on. This is what we used to drink, right? Everybody used to go down to the river and get their water. Fortunately, now living in cities, we depend on other people to clean our water for us. So maybe we'll make a trip here, and a bunch of us can go out and get some water. But I think it's a great solution, and this website will let you find a spring anywhere in the world. So I think it's a great link to have. So some resources for this lecture on slide 60. To get the other healthy spirituality lectures, you can go to gnosticradio.org. Make sure you watched Tapped. There's some interesting facts about fluoride. So I would take a look at that. There's a link for Berkey filters and findaspring.com. I think all of these will be good ways for you to figure out what's best for you. because I had to come to my own conclusions, and you're going to sort of have to figure out your own conclusions too. You know, your budget, your water system, what you can afford to do as well. Another thing I have, which I really like, the Berkey system has this really cool little sports container. And I think this is so ingenious because what you do, you fill it up with the water, right? You twist it, and you pull it over, and there's a little straw there. And when you suck it through, you're actually sucking it through the filtration system. So, you know, that's a great way to just carry that around with you. I take it everywhere I go, and so whenever I want water, I just fill it up, and I have my own bottled water all the time. It's BPA-free, plastic, and reusable. So that cost about, I think it was like $30. But it's worth it because you could take it everywhere with you when you travel, when you go anywhere. And I'm going to have to try pond water one day, but not right now. That would be interesting. So that's the interesting facts about water and what we have to contend with. And the truth is, like I said, we want to put the best fuel in our body, food and water. So when you're making your choices, you know, don't only think about your temple, but think about our temple, which is the earth, because this earth is our home for now, and we have to take care of it as well. So think about taking care of your body, and think about taking care of your home, because that's really where we all live together. So, questions, comments, suggestions? Yes. Oh, it's called the Berkey sports bottle. Yeah, Berkey, B-E-R-K-E-Y. Here, Berkey filters. You could find them I got it on Amazon even. So, and GNC carries them. And also, if you actually buy a Berkey filter, you can get like a free gift with it. You could get the fluoride filters for free, or the shower filter for free, or 2 Berkey sports bottles. Yeah, so they have a nice deal going on right now. And it's actually not very expensive, the Berkey system. So, yes?
What's the Berkey system made out of?
No, it's not plastic. It's metal, actually. It's like, I think it's steel. Something that doesn't leach into your water.
So it's not like aluminum?
No. Of course not. Hello, we're filtering our water. No. They're very well known. They're all over the world. And what I love about it is I could take it anywhere I go. You know what I mean? If I go camping or something, I could take it with me. If I go, I could just take it. You know, for our retreat this summer, I'm going to take it with us. Even though we'll be in Maine, so I bet they have pretty good water. So, yes?
What do you think about rainwater?
Well, rainwater, you know, acid rain. You have to be aware of acid rain. You have to be aware. I was actually thinking about that last night. It's funny you should say that, because I was watching TV and this commercial came on for a rainwater system, right? So it's basically a big garbage pail with the spout, but they call it the rainwater catching system or something. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea, right? I should do that. Personally, I would put it through a system, though. I would put it like through the Berkey system, because with everything that's going on in the environment, I think you need to filter it. You know, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what you're getting. Actually, what you could do, which would be fun to do, get some rainwater and test it. See what you're up against.
Probably more rural areas.
Yeah, more rural. Yeah. But remember, clouds travel too. So our New York City clouds can come into your nice Connecticut area, and, you know, we'll give you all the pollution there. So just because you live in Connecticut doesn't mean you got everything nice over there. Yes.
What about snow?
Do you want to eat it, drink it? What are you planning on it? Kate, I wouldn't typically go drinking snow, like, you know, yeah. Are you serious? Well, it's just like rainwater. You're up against the same things, and not only that, but it depends where it's falling, depends which dog's been around. Just don't eat yellow snow. Okay? But really, it's the same thing as rainwater. Yeah. And remember, an important fact, remember when you're cooking, use filtered water. Remember how we said boiling water concentrates everything? So you know when you're making that delicious soup at home and you're like, oh, I want a nice hot soup. And you take the water from the tap. So you're making this nice soup of chemicals and vegetables. And so whatever water you're using for your tea, for your coffee, make sure it's filtered water. Okay? Yes?
What do you think is, so I'm pretty conscious about all this stuff, but my roommates will use like my tea kettle to pour like their polluted water into, and then I'm always thinking about like calcium buildup and like the fluoride and all that crap. Do you know what might be like a really good way to clean fluoride residues and chlorine residues?
Well, first thing, I would buy your roommates their own tea kettle. Here, roommates, your own tea kettle. No, I don't know. The truth is, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know how fanatic we should be either. Do you know what I mean? Like fanatical, because there's got to be a balance too. Like, don't be so crazy that you're going to drive yourself crazy thinking about things like that. Rinse it out, use it. I try to find a middle ground, because if I go too much to the extreme, forget about it. You'll be a constant. You won't use anything. So I try to stay in the middle, and I think of it like this: when I go out to like a restaurant or something, right? I'm not going to get the best food if I'm not going to the best restaurant, right? I'm probably not going to get the best water. But I'm not doing that all the time. I'm doing that maybe once a week at most, once every couple of weeks. So I try not to be so fanatical that I drive myself crazy. I try to find a balance, a medium. What I do at home, this is my rule. Whatever I bring to my home is the best I possibly can bring. So I yell at my husband too. I tell him when he'll bring something that's not organic or that's something that's not, I'm like, why are you bringing this home? Go back to the store and bring back the organic. And he'll be like, stop being so fanatical. And I go, no, whatever comes into this house, I try to make it the best possible. What I get out there may be a different story, but what comes into our house is the best possible food, water, and that. So that's what I would give you the advice. Don't be like crazy and drive yourself nuts. Do the best you can. If 90% of the time you're doing the best, that's really great. You're way ahead of most people, So find a balance somewhere.
I was just asking because, water has a memory.
Yeah.
It'll store like its memory of chlorine or fluoride.
It's true.
You have to break up those chains by
Yeah.
boiling, because it's it carries energetic resonances.
Uh-huh.
So I guess I just don't I'm going to all these lengths to purify, make my water high energy, and then
That's good. No, that's great. And that's a good thing that you brought up. I was going to save this for another lecture, but the whole thing of memory and water, we're actually doing an experiment with this. It's right here, actually. And do you know that Japanese scientist who did all that? We have actually, when you want to check it out later, we did 8 jars, half with filtered water, half without filtered water. And each jar says either I hate you, I love you, the Our Father prayer, and one that we ignore. And I'm trying to see what happens if you keep saying I hate you, bad things to the water, the rice that's in the water, to see what happens. The one that says I love you, if it keeps getting positive vibration, what happens? If I pray to it, what happens? And if I ignore it. And so this has been going on for a month already. And I think we used really good organic rice and really good water, and it's taking forever to break down. So we're still doing it, but I'm totally interested to see what happens too, because I believe it. So you know what I do before I drink a glass of water? Believing that, I take my water and I say, I love you. You're the best water. Right? I literally will talk to my water, because I really think that has an effect. That plays a vital role to how that water is going to work in your body. And not only that, if we think that our body is made up mostly of water, what do all of those negative impressions that we receive do to us? What do the positive impressions, the great words that people say to us, do to our body? That's why I really believe speaking positively to each other and saying positive things, it's going to affect us, right? It's going to affect us in a better way. If we're always negative and yelling at people and talking down to them and treating them badly, that's going to do something to our body. Our body's mostly water. And if water has memory, what is our body remembering? So I think it's so important. I think there's I want to do a whole lecture on that alone because I think that's huge. So you bring up, a great segue to like where we have to go next with this because this is the easy stuff, right? We just talked about sort of the easy stuff about water, but there's so much more in depth that we need to go with water, and I just can't do it in one lecture. So we got to take it in steps. But I think that'll be the next step. So you asked some great questions there. Any other questions? So drink the best water you can. Put the best fuel in your body that you can, and then you're going to get better results, right? Everything is cause and effect. Put good stuff in, you're going to get good stuff out. If you're constantly tired, you have no energy, you feel cranky, you feel bad, you're sick all the time, there's something going on. There's something going on. You need to revisit what you're doing in your daily life because only you can do it. Nobody else can do it for you. Nobody's going to sit there and give you 3 meals a day and everything you need to drink and, watch everything you do. Only you can do it. And by taking care of this part, we're going to be able to go to higher levels with the spiritual aspects of our lives. So thank you, and hopefully we will continue to explore some other healthier options for our lives. Thank you.
The presentation of this lecture was made possible by donations from listeners like you. Help Gnostic Radio to help others. Make a donation by visiting gnosticradio.org. For questions and deeper understanding of this lecture, we invite you to explore the wide variety of resources available on our websites. Thank you for your support. May all beings be happy.